Wir kommen jetzt zu einem kleinen Panel. Und ich frage mich gerade, warum ich eigentlich auf Deutsch rede. Langer Tag, so I think I'm going to have to switch to English. I don't know, just sometimes I get confused. Sorry about that. Let's pretend it didn't happen, as I'm a professional, quite obviously. Now we'll be moving on to the next topic, and it's called, What Options Does the Startup Scene Offer for Students? Now we will be having a panel with my lovely guests, and you will also have the option of asking questions. For that we shall implement the Super Event app. There is an explanation that says what you need to do. You need to download it, open the app, join the Entrepreneurship Avenue event, click on main stage, panel discussion, and then submit your question, which you can move up and or down. But before we do that, we'll talk a little. He's amused, that's good. I'm hoping for questions from you, otherwise I'll ask you personally. Don't worry, I won't. Don't worry, mate, just having you on. I think we'll start. Could you give them a round of applause? That would be awesome. Thank you very much. I'm happy to have my speakers here. Whom do I have? I have Anna, Simon, Elena, and Dejan. They all have somewhat of a history, and they have quite an interesting history why they're here. Now, obviously, I'm a fan of pitching. I'm a fan of selling your own story. Therefore, I'm not going to say what they do, but I'm going to ask them to tell their story within about a minute and a bit, and you'll see why they're here on stage. In that sense, hello, Anna. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. So what do you do?
I'm a SIMP alumni myself. I graduated from WU, and after WU I founded a company. We've basically founded the first beauty app for women with premium tutorials for women. And what we're really trying to do and where we're going is to build inspiration platforms for bringing the inspirational shopping for beauty, which is at the moment still happening most of the time in the offline world, to the digital commerce world.
Thank you very much. Now, for those of you that don't know it, this lady is also responsible for the Entrepreneurship Avenue in 2014, right?
Yes.
So you're the one who kind of did all this first time round?
Well, not alone. We were a team, of course.
Of course, but you were the head of it. So, yes, she started it. And you managed to grow your company to around 250,000 downloads in 3.5 months.
Yes.
Which is bloody mad.
Yeah, it was a crazy time the last few months.
I think it's going to remain crazy, so that should be fun. Simon, tell us your story.
My name is Simon, and I'm the VP Sales at Soundbox. My job is pretty easy. Our CEO describes it with Simon is going to make us rich. Let's hope that works out. What's Soundbox? We develop and sell the world's loudest battery-powered outdoor speaker. So that's pretty simple. And maybe just quickly how I got there. I started actually studying for the SIMP Master here, the program that also organizes the Entrepreneurship Avenue, last year, and then went for exchange semester in Copenhagen in August of 2015. Started studying there, got bored pretty quickly, started looking for some opportunities there, and then met the guys from Soundbox, 3 high school graduates that at that point literally just graduated from high school, founded the startup and told me something about building really loud speakers. I thought that sounds really cool, so I said, screw those studies, I'll do that instead, and I've been doing that ever since.
Awesome. And by the way, one quick question. What were you doing in 2015 here?
Yes, and I also had the honor of leading the organization team of the Entrepreneurship Avenue 2015. So I think it was maybe your team's baby, maybe my team's teenager or something. And it's really cool to see actually what the team made out of this year. And it's really cool to be part of that again.
Awesome, thank you for having us. By the way, I do have a quick question to the organizing team. Could we please shut the bloody doors? That would be awesome because the noise from outside is just fucking appalling. Excuse my French? I don't like noise. Thank you. I'm 30 plus, I can complain and just ramble. So anyhow, thanks for having you, Elena. Hello there.
Hello there. Thank you for having me. I'm Elena. I am head of business development at Gründerszene and responsible for our Gründerszene job board. I found my way pretty early in this startup scene. It was, I think, 2011, and also through the Wirtschaftsuniversity. And 3 years ago, I decided to move to Berlin and to explore this crazy scene myself. And it is crazy, and I still love it. And for you guys who don't know what Gründerszene is, Grüne Szene is the main magazine for digital economy in the startup scene, so we are pretty much everything about every startup, every innovation happening in Germany, Austria, or also internationally. And for me, it's really special to be back here after 3.5 years, and I'm really excited to be here. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and I love your button. It says, Dein Job ist scheiße. Das ist auf Deutsch mal eine echte Ansage. So
Or you
let's
can
see.
also say shitty job.
So
Question
your
mark,
job is
exclamation
shitty.
mark.
Let's see what you have to tell us about your experiences. Should be fun. Dejan, hello.
Hi, my name is Dejan Jovicevic. I am the founder or co-founder of Der Brutkasten, which is Austria's startup and innovation platform. We kind of thought that 1.5 years ago we don't have something like Grüne Szene in Austria, so we thought it would be nice to have a daily stage for startups in Austria as well. I founded the Brutkasten, which is a startup itself, startup for startups, in order to serve the community, to bundle news, events, services for the community, to connect startups with the corporates, with other stakeholders, to just add value to our community, to our ecosystem here in Austria. And Brutkasten is actually a corporate startup. I did that in my role as a head of legal and HR in one media group. I did it on the weekend and in the evening, but then I found it was meaningful to pursue it as a corporate startup within an existing infrastructure.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So that means we don't all have to go on and found startups after university.
No, we don't all have to do that. Probably also not everybody would want to do that, and maybe also not everybody would be willing to go the way and the path. But what I think is very important is to try it out, to see whether that is the path and career path that I want to pursue and follow. So as we were discussing before, the conferences like this offer you guys just really like a first experience. How is it? What does it mean to be entrepreneur? What does it mean to work in teams, to work in groups? I think the labs before the main conference were trying to give you this experience. It's not necessary all the time to found something yourself. You can go and seek for experience first in order to be ready for your own startup within a corporate organization. That's possible, that has advantages. You have infrastructure that has disadvantages. It doesn't belong legally to you. But if you work in an environment that in the corporate culture that enables entrepreneurship, so to say, being entrepreneur within existing culture, that can be an exciting step as well, an exciting job.
Thank you for the insight. You want to say something straight away, don't you? Yeah, well then go for it, my friend.
No, I just think there's like not everyone is a founder is a really good point, because, for example, personally, I love startups, but if I'm really honest with myself, I don't think I'm really a founder, because I wasn't the first one to do Entrepreneurship Avenue. It was Anna who started it, but I think what I was able to do is like take her idea and make it bigger and better together with an awesome team. And I think now that just the same thing happened again with Soundbox. I wasn't the person that started Soundbox. I didn't really have these visions of having this awesome company in 5 years, but I met people who actually had the vision, but who were lacking that ability to execute that on like a daily and weekly basis. And I think that's what they saw in me, and that's what I really loved about them. They had that vision, and I love startups, and I don't mind that chaotic environment at all, and I could actually help them make that happen in a bigger and better way. So I think you can love startups, you can join in them very early without being the founder type.
I think we've taken a nosedive into the topic. I'm quite happy already about that, because I think the story is nowadays startups are somewhat like starting bands in the 90s. You know, it's super cool and everyone has to do it. Most of them are awfully crap at it, and most people don't know what they're getting themselves into, but everyone wants to do it. Now maybe we can talk about like let's say we're here, we're a student, we're currently ongoing. What are, let's say, the advantages of becoming a founder straight out of university? I mean, that's basically the decision you made. What was good about that? Why did you take that decision?
Yeah, I guess a little bit of information or background information on that, because I did work in a startup before founding my own company between my bachelor and master studies. So I did have an experience of working in a startup, and I think that was also the reason why I went straight or jumped right into it when I had the idea and when it came up and the opportunity to do it. Because I had already learned that I like working in a startup. I like the environment of really building something, gaining responsibility quickly, but also having a team which is really highly motivated, works on an idea, celebrates every little success, and is really like a small family. So, but I think it does definitely help if you have that experience. So, for example, doing an internship in a startup or so before really doing it can help a lot. And also, I think if the question comes up, should I found right after university or not? I would say, I think you can successful if you haven't worked before, but it does definitely help having worked, because simply speaking, you will make a lot of mistakes, and if you work before, you can do those mistakes with foreign money, and afterwards it's your own. So I think it does definitely make sense thinking about it.
What was your expectation when you were going into this field for the first time, and was it met?
You meant
because you said something interesting. You said you interned at a startup.
Yeah, actually I interned because I thought I would continue with my master's studies right away. And then I decided to stay, so I decided to do a gap year, and then they turned out into being 2 years. It's just, I don't know, I got lured in, and it made a lot of fun, and I got responsibility, and there was no point for me leaving and going back to university back then.
I think the question, like, should I found right when I finish my studies, is actually a bit of a funny one, I think, because if you really want to found your own startup and you have the idea, then don't wait a fucking second, just go for it. I think if you say, I want to found a startup, I think I'm really going to do that as soon as I finish my studies, then that is kind of a funny way to think about it. I think if the opportunity is there, then go for it. And I think if you're an entrepreneur, then you will do it, and you don't have to wait until you actually finish your studies.
But I also want to add that it's not a lifestyle. It's like being a founder. It's not something, oh, I want to be a founder, so I want to be hip or in. It's a life decision you make, a choice. And especially like in cities as Berlin, you meet a lot of people who, they just want to have this title. They just want to say they are a CEO. So if you have an idea, go for it. But don't do this looking, thinking, choosing, just like if you don't have the idea, don't do it. It's also fine to work in a company, to work in a corporate, so don't be this illusional graduate who thinks he needs to be a founder. So, yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I saw you nodding heavily.
Yeah, I think these were all very important points. In addition, I think it's also not to be underestimated the need for some experience also when you found after the university. Go for it. If you have an idea, if you have passion, go for it. But please seek teams that make up for maybe the weaknesses that you have. You will have your strengths, but try to build a team that cover many fields. Try to find a business angel that will help you at the beginning. It's not to underestimate the management skills, the leadership skills. You know, often people think startup, CEO, leadership management, that's a question of charisma. Well, actually, it's a question of skill set. It's a question of skill set, like you have to learn math, you have to learn management. And often universities are not able, even economical universities are not able to teach you these things. So either you have early in your job opportunity to have a boss that has a good managerial skills, leadership skills for you to learn it, or not. And if that's the case at the beginning, as long as you're a small team, things might work out, but you will grow, and the organization will become more complex. You will need some routines, you will need some processes, and that's where it gets tricky. And many startups fail on this stage, on this step. So be open to have feedback, to have input, to have mentors. There's the infrastructure in the ecosystem nowadays is excellent. You have universities that help you with founder centers, you have business angels, you have Austrian startups, Broadcasting, Gründerszene, other people in the scene. So just be open, inform yourself, and decide for yourself, is it the path and the way that you want to go? Because it's not lifestyle. That's really important to stress. It's hard work. You have to be professional. It's not like, yeah, we have flat hierarchies and we're all cool and friends. It's hard work, it's professional work, but it's a lot of fun if you put your work to that and if you're typed for this path.
Thank you very much. And I thought startups was all about getting a great valuation and raising a shitload of money and being rich easily. What am I doing here? I'm just kidding, sorry, but obviously I know that. But I mean, I think you said a very, very valid point, because I have a feeling right now in the media it's so much about getting valuations, raising money, and so many people forgetting that's just a stepping stone in order to build a real company. So I think it's in expectation management. I think a lot of people tend to forget that's bloody hard work. You were just going for that, but I just had to rant.
I think if you decide you want to found something because of the money, then don't do it, because if you look at statistics, it's a negative job for you. You could definitely make more money if you just go to a good job somewhere in a corporate world, or even in a startup perhaps. That's a little bit in a second stage already. So I would always say only found if you're really into the idea, if you really love building something up, and if you're also willing to take the risk, because it's really, that's at least what I noticed, also comparing working in a startup versus founding an own company, it's still a completely different thing for me. It's like the emotional roller coaster you're on. I mean, you're always in a roller coaster, but the emotional involvement you have, that's still a completely different level than if you're just working somewhere.
We was talking early on, and we mentioned the emotional roller coaster. And I think when we were talking about it, the two of you and you also joining in said, I had no expectation how bad it would actually really be. Because people say on stage, and prepare for the emotional roller coaster, it's going to be fantastic. But in real life, it fucking sucks, doesn't it? I mean, it's like 100, 0, 100, 0, 100, 0, all before breakfast, more or less. It's brutal, isn't it? I mean, that's my just for the sake of it, I also founded my first company more or less coming out of university. I had the luck of being surrounded by very, very, very knowledgeable founders. It was I5 Invest and the lads from Runtastic, which was quite a good experience. But I had no sort of preparation for this, and it was 100 times stronger than what I thought. I think you mentioned that early on. Maybe you want to enlighten us slightly if you feel like it.
Yeah, it was definitely a surprise for me, because I was always wondering about this roller coaster. I thought, okay, either it's got to be either working or it doesn't, and how can it be such a roller coaster that goes up and down? But after having been part for a startup for some time, I actually realized how much up and down you can have within 1 week, even with the most successful startups. So just to give an example about that, with Soundbox, so we did a Kickstarter campaign in March, which was really successful, ended up being the most successful Kickstarter campaign in Denmark of all time, and number 3 in Scandinavia. So that was definitely an up. 2-3 weeks later, we realized that without a CFO, we completely fucked up our liquidity, and the news was, yeah, let's see if that works out with the salary this month. Then the next week we get awesome investments again, and then the week after, production partner just cancel the contract, there'll be no products delivered out for another month, and that just basically just happened all in 2 weeks. So like, even if it looks really successful from the outside, you can definitely be sure there is definitely up and down all the time. But
till a point, it stops. I mean, it depends. If you're an early stage startup, if you don't have the right team, if you don't have the right employees, or not the money, the resources to implement the right processes, then, of course, it's always a roller coaster. But when you then finally there and you find the right employees and you can implement your ideas, and then you can just a little bit give away of your power in the company, that becomes really, really amazing and great. And then at some point you realize you're not just implementing your idea, you're seriously executing your business model. And then it becomes reality, and this is the most fucking amazing thing at this point.
I have to ask a dumb question, and I'll answer it myself. The question would be, is it worth it? And I think if you ask that question, it's not, because you feel you know why you're doing it. So I think if you really do what you love, the roller coaster will be worth it. If you're unsure what you're doing, you'll think probably after a week, what the fuck am I doing? Now for me, the question is, option 1 is, out of university, you go and found a company, startup. Okay, we've understood that. Option 2 is, you intern at a startup, right? Are there any other options than that? Say yes, please.
I think there are several others. I mean, you can also, I don't know, first work in a company, just a normal corporate company, or do consulting, or do banking, and then after 2 years say, okay, that's not for me, and just go back to startup. I think there's many, many different ways, and people show that they have different kind of career path. And I would say there's always someone who has been successful, no matter what he's done before founding his own company. I just think that if you're going to work in a normal company and you're going to be there for 5 years or even longer, and you have learned certain structure and ways how they tick. I don't know if you say that in English. I hope you all understand. It might be tricky to adjust to the way things are done in a startup. I think that's my experience. And so far, that when we were in the other startup and we got bigger, we also hired people who had already more experience, and they were coming from consultancy, and they did a good job in a way in organizing and structuring them. They were the only team which always made their goals. But then on the other hand, I think they had a lot of trouble really adjusting to it, and in the end, they also left again because it wasn't for them.
There's two topics I'd like to cover on this. Number one is, I want to talk with you in a second about some things. But one quick question I do have, if you're a young student and you want to intern in a startup, do you think it's good or bad for your career? What I mean is, if you intern and you go on to intern at a company that turns out to be number 26, awesome. If you go and intern at a company that turns out to be a shitbox, is that wasted time?
Of course not. Never.
Does HR know that?
HR? If HR knows? I think so, yes.
Because I'm asking, because a couple of weeks ago I held kind of a panel discussion and we had a Q&A tool, which we'll also be using pretty much soon. And the top voted question was, and it was like a bunch of like people with business background was, is interning in a startup, is working for a startup a career killer? What if the startup fails? And for me, coming from my world, it was like, what question is that? Fuck off. But it was the most voted question. How about that? I mean, I'll ask all of you, and then I'd like to also talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. How do I overcome that fear of joining a startup that I might be wasting half a year or a year of my valuable lifetime? How will that look at my resume?
I have seriously never heard this theory, and I'm working very closely with human resources because we are responsible for the job boards, so our target group are HR people. And of course, if you choose startups 6 times which have failed over and over again, then probably someone will ask themselves what kind of sensibility you have of your choices. But no, it's actually the best, not the best, but if you intern in a startup which fails, it fails. And then you go to the next application and to the next startup and tells them a story, your experience, why it failed, how was the offboarding, was there an offboarding, what kind of mistakes did you do, what kind of mistakes did the founders do, etc., etc. So I don't know if I do understand your theory right.
Not my theory, it was the most voted question from about 200 people.
Then
so not my theory.
I don't.
I mean, I think I would love to say that it's absolutely right that it's not a career killer, but if I'm really honest with myself, we're also recruiting and also look through CVs a lot. And if I really think about it, you sometimes do scan for those logos, for those universities, for those big companies where you know if someone has worked at that whatever consulting big firm, they're probably good because they only do take the best people. I think that does influence you a little bit, at least even subconsciously. But another thing I also want to say, I think there's also a point of, if you have the chance to do more than one internship, even if you love startups, to also look into bigger companies, because I think I did that a little bit in the past, and just knowing there's a reason why big companies are the way they are, and some structure is also good, and also people love structure, and even startups love structure, and being able to bring some of that experience of structure that you got in big companies, like take that and put that into a startup can also be a really valuable experience. So I think it's definitely never just black and white. Even having intern at a big company can be a valuable experience going forward into a startup.
My job parallel to broadcast, or actually I came to the Presen Wirtschaftsblatt as a head of HR. So I can tell you firsthand how it is if I have somebody telling me, listen, I worked in a startup and I'd like to join your company. There's high chance that to this person I will say, I don't care whether I have position open for you or not, come and we'll find something, because I want you to work with us, I want your entrepreneurial spirit, I want your drive, and we'll teach you other things that you need to know in order to work in a bigger organization. But don't be afraid of joining a startup in terms of wasting my time, and in terms of it could damage your CV. I think any reasonable HR department would appreciate that, would appreciate that you're, entrepreneurial, that you're selbstständig, I'm looking for a word, selbstständig, like
Self-employed.
Yes, that you don't need to be instructed for every detail, that you can work on your own, that you're proactive. So don't worry, go for it.
You were just inhaling as if you were going to say something.
I'll just make it a little bit more of a discussion now. I would also say that even if someone has just done this one internship at a whatever consulting firm, which is definitely something a lot of people here of us at the VU think about, they could still be very entrepreneurial person. I think there's really good people that are now deciding between those things sometimes, and even if they've only done this consulting internship, they might still be a very good fit for another startup, even though if they haven't interned for a startup. So I think it's just hard to make it that black and white. I think just because someone has never worked in a startup doesn't mean that he's not a good fit, but also the other way around, can also be true. But
Definitely, and that's an excellent point. And also for any one of you who is going to found their own startups, don't expect all people that you employ to work with the same engagement as you work. Some people just want to have a good job, want to do something valuable, but they also want to go home at 5, and that's fine. Not everybody, it's your startup, you're the founder, so don't expect from everybody the same engagement that you have. And if I think about my career path, I got my first job because the lawyer, I used to study law and I worked in a big law firm. They actually saw my resume and CV and they said, wow, you've done so many things at that point. The things that I did was security at the concert, building up the stages. Okay, I had some more prominent jobs as well, but only the fact that you're trying to do something, that you're trying to new things, it will be an experience that will add on your set skill, on your personality, on your know-how. And that will make you valuable for any further job.
What was the biggest... Oh, okay, we're working on that. So I'd like to see more questions than that. We'll just jump in just so you see that we do it, because we're somehow winging it. By the way, the discussion I just had is we're going to rearrange the schedule afterwards just slightly, but I'll tell you what we're doing in a second, because our guest keynote speakers ended up in a massive traffic jam, so we'll rearrange everything. It's not me being bored, sending SMS and talking to random people. There's an interesting question with 5 upvotes, I believe. Do you think people focus on their CV too much, 6?
Yes.
Good, next question. Why? Do CVs, I mean, in the old days, CVs were like the most polished thing ever.
Yeah. Basically, have you ever heard of the word digital native, Generation Y, blah, 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 this all kind of things. So basically why all the media are focusing on this is because the mindset of working, of thinking, of studying are changing. So the question is, do you want to earn more skills or do you want to show more potential? So if you apply for a company like the big 4 consulting agencies, you know they want to know your skills. They want to know where you have studied, what kind of internships you did. But if you go the path of the whole new media, new economy system, what counts is the potential. Yeah, so HR is very important in the startup scene. But for you guys, it's important to say hello and to say, here I am, and not to be ashamed that you didn't do an internship at whatever it is. And just to ask the right questions and to show the potential, to show the people, the company you are applying, that it's not about the skills, basically. And this is, you don't hire this kind of people right now after the F-schema.
Interesting. I mean, first of all, there's a very important question coming up from smart people. It's named Soundbox and not Soundblocks, right? Simon? Right. So we've done that. That's marvelous. If the next question gets 1 upvote, I'll ask it. How about, before we do that question, how about all the thing was interning at Rocket Internet and all that kind of stuff? Or maybe going to a VC company. Is that also an interesting option before going into any other steps? How about Rocket? Rocket, good, bad, yes, no, don't care? Rocket, yes, no it? Let's Google it. Opinion? Great.
I mean, like everything in life, there's not really a recipe for that. If you want to try it out, it will be a great work experience. It's just different. Rocket has a very, very strict system of implementation of projects. They don't innovate. They take proved concepts and ideas, and they have a strict, so to say, process of 3 months. Every week is dictated to what happens in that week. But going through that process will definitely give you another set of skills that you'll be able to use in another job or become a founder yourself. So like everything in life, you know, if McKinsey would call you next day and give you a really good offer, why not to take it? I started in a global law firm. It was a fantastic experience, and I learned so much that would help me be a better founder, know the dynamics in the group better, know some processes better, know how to work professionally better. So there's no really standard recipe. Just follow your instinct as well when the decision has to be made.
Thank you. Please.
Maybe to add to that, I haven't worked for Rocket yet, so of course it's just my ideas. But I would say if you want to do an internship there or work, definitely go for it, because I think you can learn a lot. If you do want to found your company and you have to decide, do I want to be a founder for a company of Rocket, or do I want to found my own company? I think it's something completely different from what I've seen or heard, at least. So I know someone who worked as a founder for one of the companies of Rocket, and I think it's more of course, I can't speak for him what his experience was, but from what I heard and what he told me, it's more of you have a really good job and you have a lot of responsibilities and you have to work fast, but it's still a job. It's not your company. And I can only speak for that very one example, so I don't want to say it's always the same, but that's the one experience I learned. So I think if you really want to found a company and be a founder of something and have your baby that you really want to build up, then do it if you have a good idea. Don't do it just for doing it.
I think one thing I'd like to add to it, I think Rocket looks at CVs quite a lot, and I think having a Rocket in your CV is quite interesting, because what I've noticed is if ex-Rocket or Rockets pitch on stage, they really know their numbers. That's amazing. They're really all about numbers. So I think that's something, if you lack that, that's an awesome thing. Two things. Number one is we have answered the first question already, as well as the second, so maybe we can just dump that, as well as the next duplicate. Maybe we can also dump those. That would be amazing. Next question is, how do I prepare for an interview with startups? Based on my own experience, they all gave business cases like in a consultancy, as many founders are former consultants. Well, that's a lot of content. Number one, are founders very often former consultants? Lift your hand if you say yes. The four of you, yes or no? That didn't work at all. Okay. Now, anyhow, how is it interviewing for a startup? Let's just leave the former consultant part. How is interviewing for a startup? Maybe that's...
I have actually a kind of funny story. I was recruiting for my own team, and our CEO was in the recruiting process with me, and just we two. So we sat there, and there was this one girl applying for a junior position, and she was definitely just focusing on me. So just like looking me in my eyes and like, yeah, I really wanted this job, and you're so great. And at the end, we asked her if, of course, she has questions. And she was like, yeah, I do. And she looked to my CEO and asked him, and what do you do in the company? And he was like, well, so it's not about the CV, it's not about the skills, but you have to know the company. Because, as you said, it's the baby of someone, yeah? So you don't want to blame, you don't want to put the finger on it and say, I don't know actually what they do. So know their business model. Know how to, I don't know, like to flirt with them, with the business model, to ask the right questions. Don't dress up. Don't be someone else. They are always looking for a team fit. Know the people who are working there, know the history, and just know how to answer personal questions and be yourself. This is my experience. And if you ever apply for a sales position, know how to pitch. Because know how to sell a pen, a bottle, whatever. Because if you especially apply for Rocket Internet, this is the thing they ask.
Simon, I mean, you literally did it, right? You applied at a startup, in a way. How did that go? I mean, they were not former consultants being 20.
Actually, my application process was pretty funny because I really think applying right now is super complicated and tough, and I didn't want to research companies, and I didn't know any startups in Copenhagen anyway. So what I did is I went to a Facebook group that's called Copenhagen Tech Startup Jobs, and I thought I'll just let the startups do the work. So I basically wrote 10 lines about myself, put a post in there describing 10 lines, who I am, what I can do for them, put a link to my LinkedIn profile, and put an email and say, get in touch with me if you can think I can help your organization. Within a week, I got contacted by a couple of teams. With a few days later, I met all of them. And then 1 week after I did that post, I'd already made the decision and went to the first conference with the startup I chose. So that was actually, I don't know if that is any typical reference here, but maybe sometimes unconventional ways also help you to get there.
I see we're somehow struggling with this creative new thing, but what about the salary gap between startups and the corporate world? What are the main reasons to accept significantly less when joining a startup? I love that question because it's true. If you go to a startup, you will probably work your butt off and you will probably get a lot less. Why do you do it? I mean, number one, is there a gap? And number two, well, why do you do it? Why do you accept it?
Well, some people would accept it because they would get equity shares or some kind of option that founders would offer them, and some people would find purpose in the work that they're doing, which is the aspect of intrinsic motivation, very, very important. I don't think you can really answer that generally. If you find purpose in that, if you find the value of what you're doing as an investment in your future, then go for it. If the money in that moment will be more important to you, then probably the idea doesn't excite you so much and inspire you so much that you want to sacrifice the lack of money for that.
I think you should ask yourself, why do you want to earn so much money? I mean, you're graduating after your bachelor's, master, you're 23, 25, 27, let's say 28. For what do you need the money? But then ask yourself, what do you need the experience? And I think you will find rather more answers for that than for the money question. I mean, of course you will pay it. And of course you will live from the salary you get in the startup. And you can earn you can rent your apartment and go on holidays. But I mean, this is the experience you are doing it for. And startup life is, it's just great. It's just all about trial and error, and you suffer together, and you celebrate together, and you drink at 10 o'clock a Jägermeister, and you go at 12 o'clock in the night together home. But you have you have to know the differences between startups, because a startup is not a startup. Per definition, a startup is just an early stage startup. Like, it ends after the first big financial round. But if you want to work in a startup culture, like Zalando, Amazon, or PayPal has also big startup culture branding, and then you can earn totally different money. But if you start working in a startup with two founders, of course you can't count on a big salary. So just ask yourself, what do you want more the next years after your graduation? Do you want more money, or do you want to just experience? And I go for experience.
I want to go in a totally different direction on one question I have. There's a guy from 500 Startups, one of the guys running 500 Startups. His name is Marvin Liao. And about half a year ago, he stated on Facebook something. He said, more or less along the lines, once the MBAs come into the startup scene, we know we're fucked. What about that statement? What does that mean? Because the question was, I'll just jump in. There was a question early on, it was kind of like, do I do the MBA or do I found? And he said it along those lines, if the people that do MBAs and if the former Goldman Sachs, which he thinks is even worse, suddenly end up going and start building startups, we're fucked because we've got a big, big bubble because people come for the wrong reasons. What about that statement?
Well, I think that's unfair. Because you said yourself...
Do you have an MBA? Do you have an MBA?
Not yet.
Okay, fair enough. Who has an MBA? Yeah, come on, probably more than who's going to have an MBA when they grow up? Don't be ashamed, it's nothing bad.
No, but...
You're liars, it's probably more than that. Das nennt man soziale Erwünschtheit.
Listen, like Simon said before, you can have people in corporates, you can have people in consultancies, you can have people wherever you want that can be great entrepreneurs, that have the potential to be that one. And you can have people that work in a corporate environment that are given the opportunity to be entrepreneur within a corporate structure. Broadcasting is an example like that. I'm given complete space to be a founder, like as if it was really my startup, but at the same time, I have the infrastructure of the corporate that helps me, that I don't have to build every single aspect of it myself. If I need media power in our case, I can have it. If I need help from people from the event department, I can go there and my colleagues will help me. So there are advantages of corporate structure as well, given the fact that the leadership of the company enables the culture within this corporate to be able to be entrepreneur in the existing culture and organization. So I don't think that it's either or. You can have a great founder that has an MBA, that has some solid theoretical knowledge, and then in the praxis he can exercise that. Obviously, I also say if the founding a startup is doing an MBA by doing, but it doesn't damage you to have it in theory as well.
I have to disagree.
Oh, lovely. Finally.
When I started at Gründerszene when we were like 20 people, and the next year also I started also when the whole due diligence process with Axel Springer took place, and when we started hiring people again, we were looking for seniors, we were looking for people with more experience, and then our CEO said, no, actually I don't want to hire seniors. I don't want to hire people like aged whatever, because they will bring a different culture into the company. We just want to try it ourselves with this culture we have, because we want to stay the way we are. If we bring people inside who have 20 years and more experience, it will automatically change. The communication will change, the experience will change. And this is what I also saw, because I also consult companies with their employer branding. And this is what I saw when people hired the wrong people, more senior than they actually needed, because they were not ready. So MBA, I totally agree that you can do an MBA, you can do your whatever. But I'm definitely a fan of thinking that you don't need it.
Now, first of all, thank you very much for the top-voted statement, a very manly beard. Thank you. I like you a lot. Are you trying to make up for the ice cream disaster early on? Yes, I believe so. Thank you. Thank you very much. 24 people say that's true. That's amazing. Thank you very much that you know how the whole tool works. Now, I do have one more question. You was going to say something, but there was one question towards the two of you, which somehow disappeared due to my awesome beard. And it was, how did the master for the two of you, the Simp Master, actually pay off? Because two of you are basically, well, close to being alumni. You're alumni more or less of the Simp Master. You're both pretty much very quickly catapulted right into the cutting edge of startup world. Did it help you to do the master? Oh, they haven't thought about that question yet. Whoever, see, there's three people are interested in that question. And they're also saying, would you recommend applying for the program? But maybe we'll first go, did it prepare you? Was it useful? Your university, think about what you're saying. No, just be free.
I think there's two answers. So, did it really help me now, or does it help me now with my business? No. But I don't think any academical program could do that. What I recommend,
that's a bombshell.
Yes.
Hang on. Did you say any type of academia is useless if you want to be a founder?
Not everything, but I think the things you're learning in university is something completely different than what you need to learn or what you're doing and learning when you're on the job. At least when you're studying business.
That's a bold statement. I love bold statements. You would just say, what are you going to say?
Let me add.
Please.
So for the question, would I recommend the program? Yes, definitely. But I think, especially when it comes to business, the things about Simp Master is a lot. I mean, besides academic programs, yes, I had a lot of interesting learnings, but the people and the network that I took with me, that's what really, I would say, is the most valuable part of the program. And that's, I don't know how that's for you, but also looking back at the network that I have from my bachelor university, that's what basically helps me now with founding my company, because the network is what opens doors if you need money, if you want to have mentors, if you want to find people to work for you. The people you know, you can call, and they can give you an intro to an important person within one day. That's what really counts afterwards, to me at least.
What about you? We're just inhaling heavily.
Yeah, so would I recommend the Simp Master? Absolutely yes. Because of the academic courses, definitely not. Because if you are looking for something that prepares you for startup life, then don't do academic courses. But I think what's cool about the Simp Master is it's a group of people that just make stuff happen. And I think it's always good to surround yourself with people that make stuff happen, because those are the people, those are the entrepreneurs, not the researchers, not the PhDs, but people that make stuff happen, stuff like the Entrepreneurship Avenue. And I think that really helped me.
Now, I want to just have a look at, I mean, obviously we have a super broad topic, okay? We could talk about this for hours on end, but I'll just state a few statements. What a stupid sentence. I'm going to state a few statements, and we'll just see what you think. So if you have a problem which you 100% have to solve, you found a company. Yes, no? You found a company. You go on to create your company. You know, this is what I need to change. 100% of your thinking is focused towards it, and you're willing to give it your utmost. And it's not there. You can't find it. You create your company. Yes, no?
I think solving a problem for yourself is one of the best ways to start a company. That's also how Soundbox got started, and I think that was one of the key reasons for success. I think it's one of the best ways to start a company.
So we can say the motivation of starting your own company has to be you really intrinsically are pissed off with something, you want to change it, you can't find a solution, you've discovered others have the same, and you just do it. Right? And no matter if you have academia, if your background, if the right time, the right opportunity is there, and you have or think you have the abilities, you just simply do it. Yes. That's a yes. That's I'm not sure. Yes, yes, yes. And you're nodding your head, but that's the choice you took, I think.
No, definitely yes. But as much as I say, only found if you have something you love and you have a baby you want to build up, and only found if there's an idea that basically have the idea and then decide to found, and not decide to found and then have the idea, basically. As much as I would always support that statement, I wouldn't say it has to be the only way to do it. I think there's some people who have founded a company, who have experienced, okay, that I'm really good at that. I'm really good at having an idea, seeing there's a problem, and I want to solve that, and I know how to do that. So if you've done that, I know
but let's maybe say first-time founder. Let's sorry to interrupt you. Let's say first-time founder. If you haven't founded before, a good time to do it is if you have that feeling.
Yeah, if you have that idea.
Okay. What about
but
you?
Also,
please.
Just being passionate. I mean, there's. I'm sure every one of you knows Freeletics. It was not about solving a problem. It was mostly about passion. And then it was just a eureka moment where they realized then they are solving also a problem. So it's also about passion and and when you find your right team.
How about saying, okay, you're pretty interested in really doing broad things, trying out stuff, being able to experiment a lot. Is that maybe the right feeling that you have when you say, okay, it makes sense to maybe intern or to join a startup early on? How about that statement?
I mean, I don't think you need to have been all your life super passionate in a specific topic that the startup of your choice deals with. I never cared about speakers really, but I love my job there. I think you can find a lot of reasons why you like a job, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean you have to have been passionate about that topic all your life.
I think you don't have to have it, but that was the case when I joined the other startup the first time. And I loved the job. I had a lot of passion because I learned so much on the job. But after 2 years, I realized I'm not passionate about the topic, and that's the reason why I left. Because that was the point when I realized it doesn't really matter to me what a mobile banner looks like. And that was the area I was working in. And so I think if you really want to stay onto a topic for years and years to come, then you definitely should have passion for the topic.
Please, you were just inhaling.
Yeah, I think you're right. If you want an environment where you're able to try things out, where you're able to fail by doing something or trying something new, I think startup is a fairly good environment to try that.
And maybe then let's say the other round. What's the right feeling I have if I say, no, I want to go somewhere in the entrepreneurship? It's quite loud at the back. That worked. What is a good call to say? Okay, I do want to go into the corporate area. What's the right gut feeling I need to have there? and maybe also do something along the lines of entrepreneurship?
Well, in my case, it was I used to be head of legal and HR, and at the same time, I always had the drive to found something myself, to try something out, and I founded a corporate startup within a corporate. I created my own job within a corporate. That was possible in my situation. So if you have an opportunity, if you have a corporate like that, that can be a fantastic experience. And maybe in 2 years, I'll found my own startup somewhere outside. I don't want to say that the corporate world, even though this is an entrepreneurship conference, that corporate world is something bad necessarily, or that doesn't give you opportunity to find purpose in your work. Quite to the contrary, you will learn a lot. There are benefits to work in the corporate world as well, but try to be proactive, try to be entrepreneurial, try to work like in a startup, even though we are working within an organization that existing already with infrastructure.
Super. I mean, one thing I'd like to add, I mean, I've been pushing this topic a little bit, but for me, the bottom line is that's what I wanted to hear. It's not black and white. There's not a, if this happens, do this. If this happens, do that. To be honest, I think personally, it's a gut feeling. If it feels right, you do it. If the right opportunity comes at the right time. And I think also if your life permits, because if you suddenly end up, I don't know, if your partner suddenly ends up getting 6 kids at the same time, maybe your options are a little different than the day before. I don't know. There's one question I saw a little early on, which I really liked a lot. And it was the question, how do I hire a rock star team? I like that question a lot.
The Gründerszene job board.
You have to say it again, they didn't get it. Then you have to do what?
You hire your rockstar team with the Gründerszene job board.
At the Gründerszene job board, which is actually a good way of taking your first steps in finding a rock star startup to maybe somehow start working there if you feel like doing that. How about you? You're just putting together a rock star team. What was maybe from the other side one of your first learnings you made? Because I mean, maybe here's some future team members, employees, or people who just look up on what you do.
I think it's a mix. So on the one hand, always ask people, do you know someone who's good at that and that? Because that's the easiest and the fastest way to get people that are good at what they are doing. So that's, I think, the easiest way if you have people, or if you can recruit people that way. If not, then I would say it's just simply a lot of work to get people to apply. And once they apply, trust your gut feeling during the interview.
Now, if we were to build a checklist for young people listening here that say, I want to join a startup, but I want to find out, is it a good startup or not? Is it the right thing for me? What would be things you would look out for in a startup before joining? What is it you need to, what are red flags and what are good things?
First of all, always the web presence, like how they present themselves, what kind of benefits they offer. If they say, or also read the job ad very carefully. If it said the benefit is a fruit basket, UBA, but it's not what you as an employee expect of the employer. So also ask the question when you apply that my expectation to work there is this and this and that. I want to have the possibility to visit some seminars. I want to have a mentor, or stuff like that. So basically, if there are startups, they reach a level where they need to write content about themselves. They need to go to Gründerszene, to Brutkasten, to get more press. And if they don't reach for this attention, then I won't say they are hiding something, but then you just don't know what kind of employer you're expecting. And there are a lot of platforms like Kununu and also Facebook. A lot of Facebook. Like if you go on Book a Tiger or Helpling, you will see shitty comments. Sorry if someone ever did an internship there. So probably if the service is shit, then maybe the employer is also not the best. Any other
red flags you notice?
Well, my main criteria would be, do I have the impression that the founder of the team or the startup has a clear purpose, clear strategy, clear vision? If they don't, it can be quite a challenge for somebody to work in a team like that. And with respect to the Rockstar team, well, that's a challenge because everybody's fighting for rock stars and everybody is looking for them. So when you're recruiting the top people, You have to be able to sell your idea, to sell your vision, to sell your startup to them. You are in a sales situation in that case as well. So you have to excite them. You have to be able to inspire them. You have to be able to show them that joining your startup, investing their lifetime, which is the most valuable thing that we all have, into your idea, into working with you, will add on, will have purpose for their life, and will add on to their experience and fulfillment.
Thank you very much. Now, the top voted question, I'm just going to answer because we somewhat nearly ran out of time, but our next speaker has finally also arrived. What leads to startup failure? Not having a market, number one, and premature scaling, number two, but that's not the reason of the topic, but just not doing your homework and sucking. So reason number one, no market, number two, premature scaling. If you don't know what that means, that's why you fail. So, in that sense, it's been a fun panel. Sorry to be so brutal on that topic, but we could talk about that for ages. I think it's not black and white. I think that's the main reason. There is no do this, do that. I think if it feels right, do it. If you're unsure, intern, talk to people, connect with your local startup scene. Austrian startups, by the way, good thing will come to places like here. If you feel like, no, I'm not so keen on taking maybe a deep dive into chaos or whatever it is, maybe I might join in a more mature company. Again, it doesn't have to be a corporate. It could also be a more mature startup. Some corporates will probably be a lot more flexible than mature startups, to be honest. Talk to the people. I mean, that's the point. I mean, I've worked with startups who were super, super sluggish after 2 years, and I've worked with huge companies who are just super in the structure, and you get to do the most amazing thing. But whatever you do the things because you want to do them. Talk to your future employees. What am I going to do? What am I really going to do? Have a feeling for it, and then if that sounds like something you want to spend time with doing, then do it, and don't base it on any other decisions like, does it sound cool being CEO of shitcorp.com or whatever it is? And then again, just as simply as it is, do it. Talk to all of those four there, and one thing is always get the right expectations and always check if they're being met. You can always add one more thing. As we're in a startup environment.
I really just want to add one more thing, because you were talking about black and white and the question corporate or startup. I think it's also important to ask yourself if you want to work in the digital economy or if you want to work in the traditional economy. And if you go for the more modern way, the new economy, the digital scene, then probably you should gain experience in the startup world, because these are the pioneers in this area. If you go to Siemens or Bosch or stuff like that, they are gaining this experience. The experts are in the startup area. So online marketing, performance things, big data, trial and error, do it in the startup. This is my opinion. Just wanna...
And on that bombshell, thank you very much for all the information. Give us, our panel, a round of applause. It's been a lot of fun. Obviously, they'll be sticking around. And what we'll be doing now is what we call in German ein fliegenden Wechsel. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll be staying here and we'll be having somewhat of a short alumni talk, because as our next speaker, don't forget your mobile phone. Oh, yeah. There you go, you might need it. Because our alumni is here and we'll be talking to him. And the funny thing is, a year ago, he pitched on this very stage with his head full of ideas, and a year on, he will be telling us what happened. He comes from a company called, well, Hockify. You may have heard. They've done awesome shit. I'm happy to have him here. Welcome on stage, the CEO of Hockify. Welcome on stage, Karl Edelbauer. Come along here. And that's the part where you applaud. Come on. A lot can happen in a year, right? Hello, mate.
Yeah.
How are you? Take a seat.
Good, how are
right
you?
there. I'm
Thanks.
fine, thank you. Now, just for your confusion, obviously you can all read, and on your booklet it says something else. Thing is, Wolfgang Fasching is in a traffic jam, so we'll have a 10-minute talk, then we have a 10-minute break, and then we'll be going on to the awards ceremonies. Boys and girls, what did I tell about being quiet? Marvelous. That's right over there. Please be quiet. Thank you. Karl. In 30 seconds, what happened between being here on stage, pitching back then JobSwiper, and now? I mean, small, minor details may have happened, right?
Yeah.
Tell us
I think
what you
only
do.
little details.
Tiny.
No, I think it was like an explosion is probably the best word to describe it. It was massive or awesome, as you would call it. No, it was incredible. We started exactly here a year ago with no downloads, no users, no funding. We just had a great idea and were like ambitious to do something on our own. And 1 year later, we just closed the second funding round with Michael Altrichter, and we have more than 35,000 active daily users and 1,500 company clients. And we're right now planning our launch to Germany. So I think, yeah, it was probably enough for 1 year, right?
I think it was, but actually the funny thing is we don't just have you to tell the story, we also have someone else who's not going to say, no, it's just one person that happened. We have someone else here, because also last year on our stage, there was someone else. There was a startup called Gatherer, and a lady called Desiree. Now I would also like to welcome Desiree on stage from the company called Gatherer. Welcome on stage, Desiree. Right that way, please. Hi there. Just sit over there, please. And you thought I forgot you, right? No, I didn't. I was just trying to build suspense. Now, again, I've said it, by the way. Can we please keep the doors shut? And if you're at the back and talk, please just go outside, because the noise just travels right to the front, because everyone's quiet here, and it's absolutely fucking awful. So that would be great. So just put someone on the door, make sure it's closed. Don't want to say it again. Thanks, that's why I'm a lecturer and a nasty person. That was
You
fun.
like to do that, right?
I like doing that. I like being awful. Desiree, the last time I said welcome on stage Gatherer was basically a year ago. You walked on stage, pitched, and also maybe you tell us what happened in a year.
Yeah, it's really nice to see you again. 1 year ago, we pitched here exactly on this stage, and we really won this challenge, like Carl. We won the prize to go to Tel Aviv. And we really did. We went to Tel Aviv and we visited the startups there. For example, Fiverr, maybe you heard about it. What would you do for $5? And it's really amazing to see what happens there. We also talked to Israeli investors, and it was a real experience to see what the Israelis do with their startups. It's an environment that's not possible in Austria yet.
Now, obviously, you've also both gained significant traction, investment, and all the amazing stuff. But it's always a cheesy question, but I mean, you're currently just experiencing it. It's just been a year. What's this advice you would give your former self stepping on the stage a year? What would you have liked to have known before? Or did you say, no, I knew it all, it was pretty much what I was expecting. I was well prepared to use the awesome entrepreneurship avenue.
Of course not. No, I would say, I would recommend myself to even get going earlier, not to wait a second too long before you get started and try out some things. Usually we tend to plan stuff and prepare stuff for weeks or months and never get really going with your own ideas and implement what you want to do. And if I would talk to myself a year ago, I would probably say, get going even faster.
What about you, Desiree? Same thing?
I would say always keep the spirit. If you go on the stage the first time, you have this kind of spirit. You trust in your idea and you think that will go really big. And maybe people come and say, okay, maybe this doesn't work, we don't know, but keep your spirit and keep going.
I mean, what I find...
Get going and keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going, keep your spirit, just do it. I mean, the thing is, but probably your former you would have said, yeah, but I need to know more in advance. And you would say, yeah, but there has to come things where I just can't keep going. How would you persuade your former self in saying, yeah, just do it, that's just yada, yada, yada?
I would probably try to find a team that's diverse. I think that was the best thing that could happen to us. We were two WU alumni, and one guy, he studied in Amsterdam, what is it called, Human-Centered Multimedia. And it's always funny when we have discussions, my colleague from the WU and I, we always have the same ideas, we want to do all the things the same way, and then he steps in and says, come on guys, what are you doing? Come on, let's take it the other way. Let's do it the other way. And that helps a lot, and that's, I think, one of the most important reasons that you find the best solutions. And yeah.
What was your greatest learning in the past year you would share? What was the biggest way you said, I just did not expect this to happen, or this to be so extreme or so easy, or...
Yeah, maybe the speed of all the economy here. You have to go into the market really fast, as you said, and I didn't know that it's really that quick. I see other startups, they create one thing in one weekend and they go out with it and they fund with this minimal viable product. And I think we always, we note that a minimal viable product is needed, but we thought it's too big. It's really an easy product. You have to create it quickly and go out with it. I would suggest myself to make a very small product first.
How about you guys? I mean, you've also had within a year, you've basically had from an idea, you've brought it onto a company, you've gained an investment, you actually even got a rebranding within a year. I mean, that's a lot of like how should I say, validation in a year. I mean, is that just what you're saying, that you do it, push it out, validate, change?
Yeah, and I think it never stops, really. I mean, the steps are getting smaller, probably. But what is the advantage you have compared to huge corporations, for example? It's exactly that. You can move around, you are flexible, you can try out things. And as soon as you stop doing that, I think you are not a bit better than, or you're not a bit faster and more innovative than all the huge corporations.
Now, we are a bit short on time, as always, in these kind of panels. Now, I have two things I'd like to ask you. Number one is for the ones who will be pitching in a couple minutes, specifically on their pitches. What is your advice on that? Number one. And number two, if I were to announce you back on stage in 1 year's time, where will you be? So number one, what's your advice on the pitching? Because, I mean, you walked on stage, head buzzing. What happened? What's your advice for the ones pitching today?
I already talked to some of them. They asked me for advice. And I say to them, get the spirit to the people. Because if you talk about the greatest idea, but you talk, yeah, you think it's good, and yeah, here are some figures, they don't get it. Keep the spirit and get the spirit to the audience. So really transfer your emotions.
Super. So show that you love what you're doing and that you're really passionate about it. Yeah. What about you guys?
Yeah, and I would say to go on stage and enjoy it. I mean, for me, it's still the biggest stage I'll talk on, and it's the biggest crowd I'll talk to. And yeah, it's incredible. When you enjoy it, you can learn so many things on the couple of minutes you're on here. So I would tell them to enjoy it. Yeah.
And now in 15 seconds, where will you be in a year's time? I know it's a super difficult question, but world domination. How about that? What are your next big steps? What's coming up?
Yeah, we want to go international. So we want to say the scheduling world all over the world is ours.
Karl, what about you guys?
Yeah, I think I want to have learned a lot of more great things on how to build up a startup on the one hand, and on the second hand, I want to build a functioning company that's not in a bubble or somewhat like this, that's really working and bringing on running revenue.
And you also said it beautifully. Obviously, your startup is just a stepping stone to validating if it will work, and the next step is having created a real company.
Yeah. You have to be careful with stepping stone. There's a competitor with a similar name.
In that sense. Thank you very much. Again, keep an eye on those two. It's amazing how quick it can happen. And one small game for you. Take a note today who you think after our pitches will be your number one guest to join me on stage next year and talk about their amazing success story a year on. I'd be curious to see if we compare notes today in a year's time, who would be. So in that sense, thanks a million for being here. Thank you so much. All the best for the next year.
Thank you.
Super, super excited.
Daniel, one question to you.
Yes. Yeah.
Can we make a selfie all together?
A group selfie?
Yeah, you always make a selfie of your audience. We want to do this today
Let's
with you.
do a mutual big selfie thing. Any other wishes? We'll have one selfie all together, a triple selfie.
I'll come on the other side.
Okay, let's do that. Triple selfie. Moving. We need your face. 1, 2, 3. Hurry up, my friend. Time is money. Got it. So,
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to our alumni, and applause is yours. Thank you very much. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a 9-minute pause just to rearrange, and then we'll kick off with the final pitches and the awards. So thank you very much, and see you in a bit.